This is a live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us, as always, on this Monday evening. Well, guys, there's been so much news going on today. It's been hard to keep up with everything, and I have just exhausted. I'll tell you, working a regular job and then just breaking down everything that's been going on the news cycle just to make sure you guys have everything on all our sites. It was exhausting, but it's worth it in the end to make sure you guys are getting everything you need this week, especially today, one of the biggest news days of the year for most of us, especially with Black Monday coming into play. The Tennessee Titans have had their fair share of ups and downs today in the news cycle, but let's not waste a moment any time talking about it. And let's get into business because we have a special guest joining us tonight from the Titan Upload Network, one of our best insiders and one of the best people we have on the network working with us to get us all the good, juicy details. It's our good friend James Wheeler of Titans for Life. And James, welcome to the Power Hour.
Hey, how you doing?
I am exhausted, man. And I know on all ends, we've been busy today. It has been a news cycle that has been a nonstop thrill ride, to say the least.
It seems like the first time I'll click on something, I'll be on my phone and I'll click on something and then something else will come up. And then something else will come up. I'm like, good Lord, the news feed is awful.
And I mean, as we all know, or if some of you tuning in into the show right now, of course, the biggest news going on right now, the Tennessee Titans have officially cut ties with offensive coordinator Todd Downing, along with offensive line coach Keith Carter, corners coach Anthony Midget, and, of course, an offensive analyst, which I don't have the name in front of me, but busy day in the Titans camp. And, of course, James, it's no surprise to you because you called this already.
Yeah, I mean, my sources were quite clear that he was going to be let go. It wasn't like a surprise to me. I got the information Friday. I was asked to not release it until after the Titans had lost a game, whether it be they make the playoffs. But no matter what, I don't think he was coming back unless somebody was going to be able to convince ownership that he should stay. And the things that have happened over the last 2 years, the Titans offense getting, progressively worse every year. And then the DUI, that there was no defense for him. There was nothing left to defend other than he's a nice guy. I like him. He's a good friend, but even then, I think Vrabel couldn't defend him any longer. So it is, it's sad in an aspect of, he's a person. He has a family. He's
Right.
He just lost his job. He has no income, and I get that. But when you're bad at your job, eventually you kind of have to expect to get fired at some point. But I do hope someone gets him and takes him in as maybe a quarterback's coach or something like that. I really hope that happens. I don't wish ill will on anybody.
And I mean, that's something, we pushed, especially when this all came to fruition. I mean, we know these guys have a lot going on in their lives. They have families, they have homes. They're trying to take care of business just like the rest of us. But realistically, this is the NFL, and you're brought in to actually do a job and compete at a high level and keep that level consistent. And if you're not, then there's other guys waiting in the wings to just jump in. So
I was told once, I was listening to this guy talk on, I believe it was one of those NFL film things, and he says, "You know what the NFL stands for? Not for long." You don't do your job, it's not for long. So,
exactly.
I wish him all the best. I don't think he is suited or ready to call plays. I think under someone for maybe 4 or 5 years to learn how to call plays, learn what the ebb and flows of the game and how to just to do that, and then how to throw in some surprises. I mean, I think it was 28 first down plays, and out of those 28, he ran 24. I mean, if I'm a defense and I just look at it and go, I'm just going to sell out on the run. Yeah, if they get a a play action pass and they get a couple of first downs, I don't care, you know, I, because I'm going to stop 24 from being a big play.
And I mean, that's now two offensive coordinating jobs that he just wasn't able to take advantage of. And I mean, the talent around both at the time, when you look back at the Oakland Raiders while he was
Mhm.
running that, and now the Tennessee Titans, the writing was on the wall. If you just can't have that kind of consistency going forward, it's never going to really amount to anything. And I agree with you. I think he'd probably be more suited going back to tight ends coach or maybe coaching in a different position.
Yeah.
But I agree with you 100%. It just isn't in the cards for him to be an offensive coordinator, lacking any kind of just creativity or any basic knowledge of really just defensive scheming.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that his offense has been crippled 2 years in a row with injury after injury after injury after injury. But I also think, you can scheme it up a little bit better. You can protect the deficiencies of your offense by doing some things. Um, I thought that play action to Derrick Henry and then passing it to him out of the backfield with a linebacker laid off. That was a great call. Those were great calls because Derrick would get 5, 6, 7 yards every time they did that. You know, I would just tell him stop it. Okay, I'd keep going back to it and say stop it. When you start stopping it, then I'm going to bust one on you because I'm going to hand it to Derrick. Or I'm going to play action pass. I'm going to send Derek out in the flat, and guess what? I'm going to pop one over top of your head because I know there's 8 or 9 men in the box. But I mean, that's not creativity. That's play calling 101. Do something until they stop you. So
Agreed. And hopefully going forward, the Titans are definitely going to have their pick of the litter trying to go forward and find an offensive coordinator. Right now at this point, and I'll put Tim Kelly aside because, that's the obvious choice for a lot of people. But where do you think the Titans should go? Who looks like they could potentially be a suitor to fill in for this offensive coordinator position going forward?
going forward, I'm not sure that there's anyone on the staff personally that can take over as an offensive coordinator. I think some of these guys have gotten too comfortable, you know, uh, with having a guy like Derrick Henry, and they rely too heavily on him um, to make the plays. Uh, running flood routes, where they're flooding one side of the field with four wide receivers and a tight end, or three wide receivers and a tight. That that hasn't worked. I mean, because the spacing is wrong. Um, and then you have no left side of the offense. You have essentially our offensive line. We don't have a left side. We don't have a left side of the offensive line. So you got to go out and get those guys. So personally, I think you got to go outside the organization, and I think you have to go outside of the organization and maybe get someone with creativity. Personally, I think it needs to be a younger guy, someone on the younger side, and to bring that energy. But it has to be. There's a lot of guys who I think they're going to consider. That's how I would go, and there's probably 10 out there that are suited for the job because you're going to end up you're going to have a young quarterback. Um, I think Malik eventually wins the job. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that he has to work on, but I think he eventually wins the job. And I also think you have to go with someone can adapt um, who can adapt whatever they do to the nomenclature that the Titans already have. I don't think you need to throw out there, okay, we're going to learn a whole brand new offense. We're going to, the schemes may be different or whatever. That's fine. But we're going to learn a whole new nomenclature for an offense. That means that your young players are now going, oh my God, what? Okay, I just learned this means this. Now it means something else. A waggle means this, and then a short dog leg means this. Now what in the world? Okay, no, you want them to play fast. If you want them to play fast, you got to bring in an offensive coordinator that can go. Okay, that's what this is called, and what I called it. I'm just going to call it what they call it, and we're going to set our plays up like that. Don't change the nomenclature of the offense. Change the design of the plays a little bit here and there, but don't change the nomenclature because you just don't want those guys swimming.
Agreed. And going forward, it's going to be an interesting search as well with the GM search, and already got a few names in on that side. So pretty exciting stuff going forward with the Titans, regardless of how the season ended. Really, this is the best time for us. We get to start talking about just the rebuilding and restructuring. Oh, yeah. You can't ask for anything better at this point.
About the only thing, I call it retooling because, some key pieces are already there. We've got our defense is top notch. Even with injuries, our defense is still top notch. Offensively, we have pieces there that are going to be effective. We've got, a tight end, a rookie tight end that is going to be the man. I don't know. Eventually, he's going to have to be paid. Eventually he's going to have to be paid. I don't know how in the world they're just going to have to back up a Brinks truck to him. That's how good I think he's going to be. And then we have, we've got a wide receiver who I think if he can stay healthy, is going to be just dominant because of his size and his speed. And then we've got to work on these injuries. Oh Lord. Have you ever seen a team with this many injuries?
Just go through this abysmal sense of injuries. My apologies. My brain's just shorting out here. So, but that's just how crazy it is because you just look at the fact that this team consistently had 80 plus different players play on this roster just because of just injuries. And I think it's just another selling point where, especially in Vrabel's press conference today, was just trying to say the things that he needed to say to just get everybody to just let him make his decisions going forward. And I would have to say the next step is probably going to be the strength and conditioning staff, because at this point right now, it's really hard to trying to defend their job for the past 2 years, the effort that they put in.
I wrote an article. I don't know when it's going to be up. I think I need to send it to you for the Facebook page, but I wrote an article talking about that, and the strength and conditioning. Before I would fire the strength and conditioning staff, I would really want to dig deep into where the injuries occurred, how they occurred, and because injuries like this don't often occur repetitively. So is it strength and conditioning, or did they change some equipment, or are they using the wrong cleats for the type of field that they're playing on? It can be, are they using the correct compression, compression clothing and things like? There's a lot that goes into these types of injuries. A lot of them are lower body injuries that ACLs, MCLs, Achilles, uh, quads, things like. Those things can happen, but and the root cause could be the strength and conditioning. But I would want to know for sure that's the case, because if it's not the case, then we need to find out what the root cause is, because this is going to continue to happen.
But one point I will make is, you look at some of the players that we have lost over the time of free agency, and most of them haven't had any injury problems. You look at Roger Saffold, you look at A.J. Brown, they're fine for the most part. So it's hard to say. Like you said, there's a lot you have to take into consideration, but realistically, the main purpose of their job is to make sure these guys are in NFL shape.
Mm.
And most of them can't even get through training camp, let alone a preseason, without getting anything royally just messed up any worse than it already is.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you on that, but I just say, my thing is just I'm a data person. I want to see the data. Okay, the data for me for getting rid of the OC was real simple. The offense has gotten worse and worse every year, point blank. Um, Play calling has gotten worse and worse every year, point blank. Um, Predictability has increased. I mean, how many times did you look out there and say, "Oh, they're going to run the ball"?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm not an NFL caliber coach. I'm not an NFL caliber GM. Um, I'm not an NFL caliber analyst. I'm not like on ESPN or anything like that as an analyst. I'm not a former player in the NFL. So if I can sit there and look at it and go, "Oh, they're going to run," it's going to be to the left. It's going to be, it's going to be in the A gap or the B gap, or they're going to try to stretch it outside, and I can call the play. My 12-year-old was calling the plays. My 12-year-old, he's 12, and he's out there calling the play. So to me, his getting rid of him was, it is what it is. But when you start talking about strength and conditioning, and injuries occur for a variety of reasons. You really need to dig into the data to make sure that you're getting to the root cause, because you could hire the best strength conditioning coaches in the world and then turn around and still end up with a lot of injuries, and then you turn out to find out it's the wrong type of cleat for the type of grass we play on, or it's the wrong type of compression fittings or compression apparel that they're using for these guys. Maybe So there's a myriad of reasons, and if I'm the Titans, I want the best of the best, and I want to know that I've got the best, and I want to know it's being used properly. That's how I approach it.
And those are great points. I mean, going into this offseason, Tennessee needs to do whatever they need to do to reassess any kind of situation or any kind of coaching position that they can, whatever they can do to make this offseason an easier transition going forward.
Yeah.
But I do know that in these situations, especially when you're restaffing and you're revamping everything, it's just making sure you get the right guys
Oh yeah.
that are especially going to work with what Vrabel's trying to create. And from
Yeah.
what we've seen the last couple of years, he's trying to build, a physical, quick, mentally prepared football team that's just going to go out and punch you in the mouth. But if that's the case, I want to make sure they're training that way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, I tell you, it's how do I put this? Um, uh, I think that the Titans need to do some soul searching. Um, how do I put it in terms? I think they need to do some soul searching when it comes to um, what they want their team to not just look like and play like, but what they want to represent as an organization. The team can be one thing, and the organization is it's entirely different. Right now, this organization is an organization that I would say is in disarray. Middle of the season, you fire your GM. It was inevitable because of what happened, what transpired in that time. But I mean, at some point, you've got to look at, okay, we need to bring in some long-term solutions, and we need to bring in those long-term solutions in the front office, settle everything down. Um, and we need to bring in some Titans people, you know. Um, Look, the Tennessee Titans, whether they're not going to be a finesse team. The you know the team tends to take on its surroundings, and the Titans are in Middle Tennessee, a blue collar, hardworking, just uh, cornbread fed, beans and cornbread fed type of team, type of area. So you're going to take on those characteristics because you're around it all day. I mean, when you're out in town, you're around it. So if you're going to if you're going to be honest with yourself, let's do that. And I think that's what Vrabel's trying to do. Let's do that. Let's bring in just some nasty, mean guys, uh, and just punch people in the mouth. Um, and and that kind of brings me to Dennis Daly. He's not that kind of guy.
No.
I mean, I think someone asked. We were in our chat or something like that, and someone asked about Dennis Daly. Why is he the only one not hurt? And I'm like, well, you have to hit someone to get hurt.
You're not lying. I mean, contact definitely has to occur for an injury to happen. So I can't tell you how many times how many times did we see him just stand on the field and just look lost on some of those plays? I've never seen somebody with just such bad technique and such bad footwork. It blew my mind the fact that this guy was even just considered professional at one point.
Well, let me ask you a question. Okay, here's one of my questions to you. Who do you think was worse at their job, Dennis Daly, or Todd Downing?
Well, I mean, realistically, in characteristics, if I'm on the field, it would be Daly because I know Daly affected quite a bit, especially penalty wise, with somebody that basically caught us with our pants down where we had an opportunity to get in the red zone and it killed drives.
I literally have never seen a left tackle miss that many blocks in my life. There was a play in this last game where they were bringing the running back up, and it wasn't Derek. I can't remember who the running back was at the time. Maybe Haskins. But anyway, they were bringing the running back up to help on the outside. So all Daly had to do was make sure he didn't get to the inside. That's all he had to do. That's it. Set up on his inside shoulder and camp out there. That's all he had to do. He had help from Haskins coming from the outside. And he completely, and I do mean complete, you could have put a hand on him. He didn't even put a hand on him. I don't even think the air from his hand from reaching out, I don't think the wind touched him. I mean, he had one job. And it was half of the tackle's job. Half. Just making sure that he didn't get to the inside to get an inside pass rush. That's all he had to do. And he couldn't do that. I don't know who was worse at their job because I keep going back and forth on that, but I do think neither one of these guys should be in the positions that they're in the NFL.
And there's no argument for me here. I mean, at some point, when you can't even just stand up and just get your hands out to block somebody or even put your hands on them, let alone just preparing to block them, I have no hope for you as a tackle in this league. Ugh.
It was awful. I mean, it hurt my feelings. As a guy who coached, offensive line for a couple of years, it hurt my feelings.
As somebody who played offensive line in high school, it angered me because what we preached in high school was technique. Yeah. And I've never seen such terrible technique on just such a grown man in the professional level.
Yeah. Did anyone tell him if the guy's faster than you, give up a little bit of ground so that you can get to your block? Did anyone ever tell him that? I mean,
I don't think they even fathomed that.
because I mean, I've seen babies reach for bottles, the way he was trying to block. That's what it looked like.
I mean, all season long, I said, they probably could have just put a wall out there and stapled a jersey to it and got better results.
At least you got to go around the wall. The wall won't get out of your
Exactly.
way.
So there's hell. At some point, I think I said a cat just chasing a laser light at that point would be just a good enough distraction to trip somebody up.
Oh man, yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And but surprisingly to me, Jordan played okay. Jordan
Yeah.
Reeves, yeah, he played okay. I mean, he's. I don't think that he's a long term solution, but I mean, in the situation he was in, he played pretty well.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I wouldn't mind keeping him around
yeah,
just to let him have a backup position. Maybe he could work his way up during training camp this year. So there's something there.
yeah. I think is he not like I can't remember. At one point in time, didn't they have him at right guard too? Didn't they
I
move
think they
him
did.
around? Yeah.
I think
So
they
I
did.
mean, if you got a guy that you need to play, need to play a game or two, and he can play right guard or left guard, keep him around because it saves you from having to keep that extra position. Keep him around. I mean, I think he did. He handled himself well.
And that's definitely going to be one of the positions we're going to look forward to as the offseason starts to progress. But welcoming everybody in on the show. Of course, it went a little longer than we hoped, but there's so much to talk about. I mean, James, we had to just get this off our chests. I mean, especially you. You've been defending your news just about for the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Don't doubt James when he gets a source. When he gets a source, he's going to get you that news. I promise you.
I try. I mean,
Well, you're
it's
succeeding.
frustrating. It's really
You
frustrating.
tried. You tried, and you're succeeding. So that's what matters.
It's frustrating that there are other outlets out there that will cover what we say, that will cover our breaking news, and then not, oh, I don't remember who said it. It was one of those sites, one of those YouTuber people wouldn't, they're YouTubers themselves.
You know who said. You know who said it.
Not only do you know who said it, it's probably right there in front. And if you can't, it takes 10 seconds to pull it up on your, on YouTube. I mean,
You've been saying it for weeks. I mean,
yeah,
if not, for the entire, not the entire NFL season, whether you or Rossi just getting these tidbits or information, they get dropped. Comes from our end. I mean, you don't want to say our name, but you're going to say our name one of these days.
yeah. And then there was there's a couple of outlets that are like that, and I think you know who I'm talking about. There's a couple of outlets out there that
I'll take the advice of my late grandmother and just say, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. But then one day it's like, if you're right, you don't have to say anything at all. Period.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a couple of other questions. I wanted to ask you some questions because I wanted to get your take on how much do you think Derrick Henry has left in the tank?
That's a good question. And honestly, I've been thinking about Derrick Henry and his involvement long term in this offense the last couple of days. I mean, from a health standpoint, I think maybe he's got about 3 or 4 good years left in the tank. Even despite the fact that his workload has increased and he's going to consistently be the bell cow in whatever offense, whether he's here or going to another team, which that's another discussion one day. But realistically, I mean, for someone that puts that much investment in their body and to stay healthy and stay competitive, I think you got about 4 more prime years of Derrick Henry if everything goes the way it needs to go.
Okay, yeah, I can't disagree with you there, but I think that he's got. I would say 3, 4, maybe up to 5, where he's the fifth year may be a little less productive or whatever, but still,
Right.
significant. But I think that in order for him to get that long, I really, really, really think that you've got to get him a better offensive line.
The fact that he continues to put up the yardage that he has with patchwork offensive lines is just a commitment of just his excellence, and people need to put respect on his name for that.
Yeah. Say what was the comedian said? Say it with your chest. Still don't know what that means, but say it with your chest. When you say his name, say it with your chest.
I guess you got to puff that chest out when you say it. I guess that's a peacock kind of thing. It's great to have James on the show with us tonight. Everybody on the show. Shout out to Ryan Harris of the Jump Ass Podcast. Yes, shout out to James. We're going to make sure he gets his due here. The man's working. That's what matters. Shout out to Mom on the show. Love you, mean it. Good seeing you as always.
Hey, Mom.
Ryan's going to say 2 years max, to be honest. And I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to depend on his health. It's going to depend on if we can get a good offensive line in front of him. There's literally just a lot to take in place. So I guess we can only take it one day at a time with that. But trust me, we got a whole off season to talk about that. So we don't want to just blow the whole show on just one topic. So
yeah. Black Friday Black Monday was black.
Oh, and that is
black.
We are going to get into that right now. So James, welcoming everybody into the Power Hour. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. And of course, y'all been waiting for the top news. So let's hit it. And of course, starting out, the Chicago Bears are on the clock as the Bears ended up snagging the number 1 overall pick from the Houston Texans because I guess Lovie Smith just decided, well, if I'm going to lose my job, I might as well win a game. So
that was, the Lovie Smith firing was kind of, to me, surprising.
It was to me.
Because, I mean, honestly, he's had 1 year. He hasn't gotten any of his guys in there. He hasn't gotten, he hasn't he hasn't had time to win the entire locker room. He's had 1 year. That was a surprise. You got to give him a couple of years just to see if it's a trend or if it's just, bad luck that year.
And Ryan Harris said this earlier on Twitter, and I agree with him, that this pretty much was a PR hire. I think the Texans at the time wanted to hire Josh McCown, and with the situation going on, especially with Brian Flores, they didn't want to be that team that jumped on the up-and-coming coach and not give another coach a chance. So basically that's what happened. And realistically, I'm thinking, I just feel like they're just going to just want to done him. And I mean, honestly, James, what was your take on the whole thing?
My take was that if you're going to hire a guy, and you're going and you're already pretty much at the bottom of your division. I mean, at the time it was between them and Jacksonville, who was worse. So if you're at the bottom of your division and you finish at the bottom of your division after 1 year, what more did you expect? It's 1 year. I mean, he had the cupboard wasn't only bare. I don't even think there was a cupboard. I mean, he had. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, let's keep it real here. Keeping it real, I think that team is as bad of a talentless team as you can get without losing every game.
And that's a fair assessment. I mean, realistically, I think not only talent-wise, but really not only on the field, but you'd have to also say in the front office, where they continue to make poor decisions. They continue to just be a revolving door for not only coaches, but GMs. I mean, realistically, who's going to want to stick around for that kind of situation if it's no kind of just consistency there?
Nobody. But I mean, now that Chicago has that first pick, who do you think they take? I don't know.
And Bradley Newberry brings up a good point that they, I won't say they will, they could trade the pick because realistically, I mean, you've got a bunch of quarterback needy teams that would probably like to jump up in that spot and try and get Bryce Young at that point. So, I mean, I think the Bears are very hungry to get a young wide receiver, but it would almost kind of be a reach for Quentin Johnson. I think he's a top 10 player, but I don't think he's a number 1 overall player.
Yeah. If I had to guess, probably Will Anderson. I think Will is, he's really good. He's a really good rusher. He can come off that edge. He's a good edge rusher, and he can give you some flexibility. I think they get. If I were them, I would go defense, and I would probably go Will Anderson Jr. Um, in my opinion, he's a better athlete than anyone else in the top 3. Just a better athlete. He can impact the game more. And when I say more, I mean more immediately. I mean, you're dealing with a rookie quarterback. There's going to be some bumps. There's going to be a lot of bumps. But if you need that guy who, and you already have Justin Fields, who I think, given time to develop, given an understanding of the offense, that he can develop into a serviceable quarterback. And if you build a defense around him and you put an offensive line around him, I think they can be successful. So my answer is that let's build that defense because you have a quicker you have a quicker lane to success if you build the defense first.
And valid point. I mean, the Bears are definitely going to have to get a more consistent defense built around what they've already stripped down in the last few years and has become a big weak point for them. I think it helps extremely that they're going to have the most cap space as of right now going forward into free agency. So I see them being very active shoppers also.
Yeah.
So it's a rich get richer kind of situation for the Bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, but if they do decide to trade down, I think Will Anderson goes in the top 3 regardless. At most, he'll fall down to 5. So if they do, let's say they trade back 4 or 5 spots, he's not going to be there. Then they're looking at, okay, what do we do next? And I'm not sure what exactly they do next. I mean, they have so many holes that an elite pass rusher can kind of cover up. They have so many holes that I don't know where you would go from there.
I mean, realistically, it couldn't hurt them either if they did trade down and just bring in younger players. As I said, right now, they do have the most cap space as of right now to potentially just go out and shop. But realistically, it couldn't hurt to get younger as well.
Yeah. I just they're picking number 1 for a reason.
Exactly. But there definitely won't be any shortage of ideas for the Chicago Bears as they decide what to do going forward to April.
Oh, no.
But of course, as we talked earlier, Black Monday hit, and it hit hard. Lovie Smith being the first victim of it. And then, of course, Cliff Kingsbury being the next, to no surprise. So, James, I mean, we probably haven't seen the end of Black Monday, which I would say there might be a couple more coaches maybe just waiting for their fate as things start to just file out. But with Kingsbury, I just felt this was another college coach that just wasn't going to work out in the pros. So, what was your take on Arizona moving forward from Kingsbury?
I think it was a function of they brought him in because of Kyler Murray. They brought him in 100%. And I think that once the NFL figured out what he was doing and how he was doing it and shut that down, and then therein lied the problem. Cliff's offense is a one-trick pony, essentially. Um, so if you figure out that trick, you figured out the pony. And in the NFL, I mean, they have just a ton of people that go over analytics. People who are not even associated with the NFL go over analytics and look at all these things and then watch plays. And you can go on to NFL.com and get what do you call it? The all 22, and you can break down things like, if we can do that, these guys who are doing this for a living, making millions of dollars a year, they're going to catch what you're doing. And they're going to figure it out, and they're going to learn how to defend against it. And you better have another trick. You better have something else up your sleeve in order to continue in the NFL. So I mean, so they were successful for a little while, and then the NFL teams caught up. The defenses said, "Okay, we know what we got to shut down," and that was the end of it. So moving on from Cliff was, I mean, and I think we're going to talk about another college coach later on who, why is all I can say. But yeah, Cliff Kingsbury is I think he'll be successful. He'll go back to college. He'll be a head coach in the college ranks, and he'll be successful at the college ranks.
So you would see him go back to the college ranks. You don't think that there would be any chance for him to take an NFL job as a coordinator? New
Maybe
England
somebody
would
will give him
definitely
a
be a
shot.
good fit.
Yeah, maybe somebody will give him a shot. But if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, I can make a ton more money in college. I mean, than being a coordinator in the NFL. Yeah, it's a lot more prestige being an NFL coordinator. But you look at guys who are winning a lot. They're making 10, 15 million a year. He can go to college, and be making $8 or $9 million a year easily.
And I don't think that that's a bad option for him. I just think after the Texas Tech job, I think that some schools are going to be a little gun shy, and especially take into consideration the fact that he left USC practically after taking the job just to head to the NFL. So I don't know what his options might be, but I don't think there's going to be a shortage of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Power Five, I don't know, but I do
Probably
think,
not.
but I do think that someone's going to take a good long look at him, and maybe someone in the Power Five that's kind of lower mid Power Five. A team that needs a coach that's in the Power Five or something like that. I think would take a good look at him. But your Tennessees, Georgias, Alabamas, if they need a coach, your Michigans, that's not happening.
Right.
Ryan, that's the amazing.
And I mean, that wouldn't be a bad option. I mean, he could go back there, kind of rebuild his image, and then just get a better offer going down the road. He's still young. So,
yeah,
if he wants to be patient, that might be the best way for him to just rebuild his brand.
Oh, yeah. I just don't particularly. I'm sorry. I just don't particularly. I think that he would just as soon not coach as to go to, a Division One, a low team or something like that. Division Two or whatever. I think he would. I think he would just not coach.
Well, regardless of his decision, he will be a hot commodity, whether going to college or staying in the NFL. Realistically, he won't be short of the options going forward.
No.
Hitting on our next piece of news, and of course, this one's the interesting team right now. The Denver Broncos seem very anxious to just try and get a head coach to try and save Russell Wilson's once proud career. So at the moment, it seems that Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton are in the running for this position. So, James, realistically, out of the two candidates, who seems to be the most likely?
I don't know if Peyton, I'm not sure if Sean wants to. I think he wants to come back, but I think he wants to come back to the perfect situation. Um, and I, and this is the college coach who when it comes to Harbaugh, everybody wants him to emerge kind of like his brother. You know, they want him to be that good coach, good solid coach. He's not. Jim Harbaugh is not John Harbaugh. And I don't know why he keeps getting shots in the NFL. I really don't.
I mean, realistically, like you said, I think maybe they're just waiting for that right situation that he can just flourish with the right team and the right owner.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would have happened his first go around with the 49ers. And I'm not saying he did a bad job. I'm just saying at some point, the rah rah kind of attitude just doesn't work in the NFL. And that's basically what his whole coaching system's about.
Well, when you got players that are making more than you, it's kind of hard to be rah rah. You know, rah rah, coach. Shut up. Hey, you know how much I made last year? You know how much how much guaranteed money I got in my contract? Why don't you just leave me alone? Because you may be gone in 2-3 years. I'm gonna be here. That's how players look at it. That's how some players would look at it. And then you got a guy like Sean Payton, who I think this would be a good job for Sean Payton. He's dealt with, Drew Brees, who was a shorter quarterback, knows how to coach that type of offense that's needed for that. Knows how to get those throwing lanes open and the vision lanes open. I think this would be he would be a great hire um, for the Denver Broncos or Arizona. Just to be honest with you, you got shorter quarterbacks, and he knows how to deal with it.
But of course, with Peyton, it's the consideration: is a team willing to trade a first round pick to get the rights to his services? So, would Denver be better off just going another route, or is Denver just in a position where they might have to just deal this pick and just kind of just kick the can down the road?
I'm Denver. I say, okay, how about this? How about we give you a second this year and a third next and a second next year? I mean that equates to more than a first round pick. Um, I don't want to necessarily give up my first round pick, but 2 seconds. I mean, you think the Saints are going to turn that down?
I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't.
And you get your first round picks, and at that point, you also get your first round picks, which means that you may be able to wheel and deal and get a late first, and then a late, and a second back.
So for Peyton, I would definitely say in the right situation, I could see him have kind of an Andy Reid revival.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, it depends with the right quarterback, the right owner, basically the right GM also. I would have to hope that it's potential there. I just don't see it with Denver, but you bring up Arizona, and I feel, well, if they could get the right GM in place to get him what he needs, Arizona would be a pretty good fit for him. But would the Saints trade him to an NFC team?
For 2 seconds, heck yeah. I mean, 2 seconds. He's not coaching my team right now, anyway.
True, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be Mickey Loomis and then have to face him in the playoffs, lose in the playoffs, and then lose my job.
But okay, here's the next scenario. Um, you you have 2 second round picks. Okay. Yes, I may have to face him in the playoffs, but he's going to a team that's not very good right now. It's going to take some time, right? Would you agree? It's going to take some time.
I'd say if he could get his system and Kyler Murray on the same page, it could be a quick turnaround because they do have the offensive pieces in place. I just think they really need to just get him help on the offensive line and help on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't think Arizona's going to be a complete rebuild, whereas they're kind of in a situation with Tennessee. I would say retool would
Yeah.
fit that better.
I see. It depends on who retires this year from Arizona. They already lost. Who'd they lose?
I know they lost Watts retiring for sure.
Yeah. There was a receiver I think that they said was probably going to retire too, but I can't remember who it was. But I mean, it's one of those things where I'd want to see where everything shook out, and I think that some of these players are going to want to see how it shakes out because if it's Sean Payton that comes to Arizona, I think they stay around for another year.
Yeah,
But
I think Bradley says AJ Green
yes, AJ Green
was the wide receiver. So there we go.
So I think Arizona is a good fit for him. I think Denver is a pretty good fit too. But if I'm the Saints, here's the problem by not by not allowing if you get the offer of refusing it is what coach is going to want to come play for you? What coach is going to want to come coach for you, knowing that if there is if I retire or leave or whatever, that you're going to say I can't coach again in the NFL. That would be essentially what they're saying.
That's a good point.
I mean, then you're handcuffing your organization permanently.
And realistically, I mean, I think eventually it's just going to come down to whatever team gives the best offer, whether it's first round, whether it's second round. It's just got to be enticing enough to move the needle. I think the Saints right now have the best hand to play right now because they can afford to be picky at this moment. So they don't have to necessarily move quickly to make anything. But I would, if I'm Mickey Loomis, try and make some of these other GMs sweat it out. Maybe try and squeeze them a little bit, see if I can get a little more. Because Denver at this point knows they've already invested a hefty amount within Russell Wilson, and they need someone with an offensive mindset to get him on the right track.
So, I mean, and no one has expressed to me, and I've got several contracts. No one has expressed to me that Sean Payton is serious about coming back. He's taking these interviews. He's going to do these interviews and things, but that doesn't mean you're serious about coming back. That may mean I'm weighing my options, because I'm sure that there are a lot of TV shows that would love to have him as the analyst and pay him a king's ransom to do it.
And I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of money made in television. Sean McVay seems to have made his mind up and seems to be wanting to go that route. So
it's a lot less work.
It is.
I mean, you're not having to be out there on the field 24 hours a day, out there sweating with the guys, making sure that they're doing their stuff right. I mean, you're in air conditioning.
You just have to give it good analysts. That's all you have to do.
You got to put in some work, but not as much.
Just be entertaining. And I mean,
Yeah.
some coaches already have that gift. So realistically, I think McVay fits well in. But with the Broncos right now, I think they got a good opportunity to try and make a decision. I would have to say the best option for them. There's a lot of good up and coming coordinators. I think you just have to kind of really just make the best decision going forward. You understand Russell Wilson's going to be your future. You've invested so much in him already.
Hmm.
And at this point, it's just getting the right guy that can utilize whatever Russell Wilson has left in the tank, if any.
Yeah. I think you've got to develop your run game a lot better than it's being developed right now. I think you really have to be able to hit. I mean, think of when Russell Wilson was at his best. He had beast mode in the backfield. That's when he was at his best.
Yeah.
So,
But the biggest question, is there anything left in the tank?
I think there's plenty left in the tank. I really do. I think that I don't even think his. I don't think his tank is even half empty. I just think that he's one of these quarterbacks that operates the best when he has the ability to play action and use that play action to buy a little bit of time and get a little bit of spread in that offensive line so he can see downfield.
Going forward, it's going to be an offensive battle to see which of these head coaches might potentially take the job.
Mm.
But Denver has the ability to wait and just find out what they can squeeze going forward.
Yeah.
But speaking of other situations, it seems that, of course, our good friend Javidian Clowney once again seems to be on his way out, already voicing his displeasure with the Cleveland Browns. Well, they decided to keep him home for the remaining game of the season. And of course, now it looks more likely Clowney will be testing the market going forward. So, James, it just seems like the man that just continues to find ways to just squeeze a little bit more money from some of these teams and then just not give enough production back will be trying the free agent market once again. Is there much of a market for him at this point, or do you think that apparently he's going to be starting to look at a drier market going forward?
This is what I say. Mr. Clowney, don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you. See you later. Not worth it. Not worth it. I don't care if he if I offer him a contract for $1 and he takes it, it's not worth it. He's not worth the trouble. He's not worth the instability in the locker room. He's not worth the absolute circus, and his last name fits him well. The Clowney antics that he does. It's bringing him in is asking for trouble.
Agreed.
No, no. I wouldn't touch him with someone else's 10-foot pole.
And I mean, I'd have to go back quite a ways to actually remember a first round overall pick that just was average. I mean, realistically, he was so hyped up coming out of college. It seemed like he was going to be the guy that was just going to be a disrupting force on the line. And maybe he only had probably 2 good years out of his entire career. Most of it he spent hurt. The other part was just underperforming. I mean, realistically, what is Javidian Clowney's legacy?
Trouble, discontent, and taking owners to the woodshed.
I would even add mediocrity to that.
I don't know if I put him into mediocrity. If you say,
I only say that because I
impact per
feel
dollar.
you look at his career and he only had maybe 3 or maybe 4 good years. out of his entire NFL career. To me, for someone that was drafted in the first round, first pick overall, I can't call you a bust, but I can definitely say you just underperformed to at least a point of mediocrity.
I'm not saying that he's underperformed to the point. I wouldn't call him a bust in that. But the when you weigh his productivity, the money you pay him, and the trouble he causes, that is a bust to me because I'm paying him a ton of money, almost literally a ton of money, and he's going to bust up my locker room. He's not going to perform very well. So the price to performance and the price to impact of the locker room is a bust to me. And any GM who is a sucker and takes on his contract or brings him in the free agent market and brings in anything, any significant money should be fired. Should flat out be fired.
And there's no argument here for me on that.
It's hard to
for the
argue.
money for that kind of money that you paid for a player to try and get at least some kind of production out of him, especially for the defenses that he has been on and could have helped bring some kind of just stability on that opposite side. It was just lackluster at best.
If he was decent against the run, I'd be like, hey, but he's mediocre. He's lower mediocre in the run and just at best mediocre on the pass defense in the pass rush. So what good is he?
At this point, just this year alone, just worth 2 sacks. I mean, whatever you want to pay to get 2 sacks production, go for it.
He should be paying them back. He should have to pay them some money back. Hold on. Let me grab this.
He really should. I mean, for just the lack of just preparation.
It's almost. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to grab. My cord keeps getting wrapped around my foot. It's almost like he gets his money and he's like, I got mine, so I'll give you a little something, but that's it. And then I'm gonna badmouth you because I'm not getting my production because I don't want to put in the work.
Well, I mean, that didn't work out so well for you, did it?
Well, it's worked out great for him. He's made a lot of money.
In that sense, but I mean, just in stability.
No, that instability, no.
I mean, he could continue making that amount of money if he actually had stability, but that's asking a lot at this point.
Yeah.
But regardless of it all, Clowney's on to the next one. And to finish out our top news, yep, there's a college football game on, but you're really not missing much. Because I've got a screen on the opposite side of me, and believe me, you're not missing much. So I'll even tell you who I picked. I mean, I picked Georgia, so big shock.
Yeah, I think that Georgia is just too much. That they're just. I mean, TCU. Hey, hats off, great season, but
yeah,
you got how did I put it? You got college kids playing grown ass men.
Yeah. Georgia's gone full Alabama mode at this point.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I think there are maybe 2 teams that can who are going to kind of be able to kind of catch them in college. There in my opinion, there are 2 teams that could kind of okay, yeah, you want to play? Let's play. And stand toe to toe with them over the next couple of years. Next year, I don't see anybody catching them, but the year after, I really do. I think Tennessee is going to be there. I think Tennessee is going to really be there. Um, and then you end up with Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, and Texas is never without talent, and neither is Oklahoma.
Agreed.
So those are some situations where Georgia's going to be playing in a conference that has Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is coming around, and um, you got Kentucky's made a resurgence, and then and then you go out and Texas A&M, although that's a dumpster fire right now. Um, you got and then you add in Oklahoma and Texas. Huh, man. And one of those is going to end up in the East or whatever it gets called, whatever however they decide to divide this up. At some point in time, I mean, geez, that's murderer's row that you're going to have to play.
And just to finish out just this, amazing game that everybody's sitting through right now. We all know that everybody and their grandmother's basically watching this to make sure that they're seeing some elite talent head to the draft. So for the Titans, who are some players you think on both sides that they would be looking at?
Oh, wow. I know this is going to disappoint a lot of Titans fans, but offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. That's my picks. Your receivers can look like all pros if you've got time to throw the ball. If your quarterback didn't get hit more than a punching bag in a Gold's Gym. I mean, if your all pro running back has an actual hole to get through on the line, then hey, you're gonna be better. Offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. We've got to get that clean. And I know a lot of people want a receiver or whatever, but like I said, if you can straighten up that offensive line, you have a little bit more time. 1 second in the NFL is an eternity for a pass play. 1 second is an eternity. So, especially when you got a couple of tight ends that are out there burning up people. So, I know a lot of people don't like what I say there because they want to get the flash, but it's the big uglies that win the game for you.
And speaking from a former big ugly, I respect that. But I'll be the voice of reason here and say, flash, flash, flash. Quentin Johnston, I love his game. He hasn't done anything in this game, which kind of makes me happy.
Yeah.
So that just means better shot at him for us. So we'll just leave it at that.
I can't remember the Titans. Do we have a second round pick this year?
We do.
Okay.
It'll be 41. So
okay. So it's a high second round pick. Why not pick a big ugly because there's going to be a lot of really good wide receivers that are going to come out, and I say pick a big ugly at 11 because you're going to get an elite offensive lineman, probably an elite offensive left tackle, in that at that 11 spot. Wait to 41, and then pick up a guy like Jalen Hyatt, just a burner.
I've thought of different scenarios in that situation, but realistically, I think it's just the opposite. I think you've got more offensive line depth in this draft and less wide receiver depth in this one. You've got a few guys that I think would be difference makers, but there's not that one receiver that's going to make or break a team's entire offense. I think, you don't have that Calvin Johnson type receiver in this draft. I think Quentin Johnson's the best receiver in this draft. And if he's still on the board at 11, I just don't see how you can't take him.
Well, my reasoning behind it, if you think Traylon Burks is your number one wide receiver, and he's shown flashes where he is going to end up being that number one wide receiver, in my opinion, he's going to end up being that guy, then you don't really need a number one wide receiver. You need a top flight number two receiver. And that's what Jalen Hyatt is, and if you can pick up an elite offensive lineman, and I don't mean good, I don't mean serviceable, I don't mean above average, I mean elite offensive lineman. Hey, you got to do it, don't you?
It really just depends on the situation. Like I said, I feel it's just a very weak draft for wide receivers. I don't need two number ones,
Right.
but I don't think Quentin Johnson could be a number one on some teams. I do think he's good enough to be a serviceable number one and an elite two in some offenses. But at this point in juncture, if Tennessee is going to evolve offensively, you kind of have to start getting to be a more passing offense. And as much as Vrabel wants to pound a rock, that's fine. It still wins games. The biggest service you can give Derrick Henry going forward is give him something that helps move the chains consistently. That's not him doing it.
Well, and I think this is where we're kind of disagreeing here, and to be honest with you, it's kind of surprising to hear a former lineman say, "Hey, let's get some flash in here." What I think is my philosophy has always been the line makes everyone behind them better.
And I agree. I agree with that. I'm not.
And then if you can get a good offensive line, and then you turn around and you get Traylon Burks, who I think is going to be probably one of the best tight ends, in the NFL here in a little while. If you can get, your I can't say his last Chig. I call him Chig, but I can't say his last name. For some reason, it's a tongue twister for me. I couldn't say that. Remember the motor company Isuzu? I could not say Isuzu for the longest time.
That's fine. That's fine. Some people can't say Worcestershire, so that's understandable.
I don't. I just say that around here they say Worcestershire.
That's exactly what I was going to say next.
Worcestershire. So I think you got Chig, who I think is going to be elite. And I think you've got Burks, who I think is going to be elite. You need that third guy to kind of, get it going. Some people think it's going to be Kyle Phillips. I have my doubts about Kyle. I think he's a good guy. Great,
right.
Great hands and all that. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy. But you got a guy, there's a lot of guys who I think are, maybe not elite number two receivers, but are really good. If they're facing a number two corner, they're going to eat their lunch. So I just, I say if you have to take that spot at 11, you can't trade back or something like that. And there's an elite left tackle, because left tackles are hard to come by. We had a left tackle this year who everybody thought was good and then ended up being terrible, in Dennis Daly. If you can get that elite guy who's a franchise left tackle, you got to take it. There's not a lot of them around anywhere in the NFL. That's why they're so expensive.
And that's not the argument point that I'll make. I mean, realistically, I'm not arguing the fact that this offensive line doesn't need to be rebuilt because it does. I'm just saying I can go in the second round and find an elite offensive tackle. Darnell Wright more than likely will fall in the second round. Jalen Duncan from Maryland will more than likely fall in the second round. I think they're they're sturdy enough bodies, and I think they're just being overlooked for a variety of reasons. But you can plug them in, and they'll play at a high level.
I really need to look more at Wright, to be honest with you. I have not seen, I haven't watched a whole lot of film, but I think that, don't get me wrong, I don't think that, I'm not saying that, that there's like 2 or 3 left tackles and then the rest are trash. But what's harder to come by? A franchise tackle that's going to be there for 6, 7 years, or a wide receiver that you're going to have to pay, what was it, $25 million a year for in 3 years?
I mean, it just really depends on what position we're heavy in the draft that I have to look at. I mean, if it's heavy on one certain position and it's a position that I need, I mean, I definitely want to look and make sure that I'm going to make the right pick going forward. But if there's another position that I know I'm going to need going down the road and there's not a whole lot of, I also have to like weigh that a little heavier.
Yeah. It's a moving target, and I'll give you that. It's a moving target but like I said, to me, I'd rather have high second tier everything else, but a top tier offensive line and defensive line. That's just me. That's just, I mean, I'm old school. I'm old school like that.
And I mean, I think you look at just the talent level of what is on the offensive line this year. And I mean, it just depends on how the board falls. You know, I very well have that mindset of like, who's on the board? You know, who's the best player available? You know, I don't think Tennessee's in a position to pass on an alignment. Let's just get that out of the way right now. I mean, if the best offensive tackle's on the board and there's really nobody else that I feel that's worth going up and going over him, like Paris Johnson's on the board, you know, I'm going to go with Paris Johnson.
Yeah. And you know, and we also, you know, and one thing that we've kind of neglected is the free agent market. You know, what the Titans do in the free agent market is going to dictate what they do in the draft.
And I mean, that's another great point. I mean, there are some very good players in free agency. And I mean, realistically, they're not elite level, but I mean, they're underlooked. And I think they're good enough players to play and help excel us to a point to being more productive as an offense.
And I think it also comes down to, am I going to bring Nate Davis and Dylan Radins back? Am I bringing both of those guys back? If I'm not bringing both of those guys back, then I hit the free agent market, and I don't need elite. You know, I don't need elite guards. I really don't. I need some big guys that are going to eat up some space.
Yeah, that's all you need. I mean, you need them. You can have good enough guards, but you got to have your blind side protected.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that's where I go. Is okay. Let me. You know, let's whoever the Titans pick up as their GM, we're gonna need to say a prayer for him. We're gonna have to pray for this man because he's gonna come into a hot mess.
I mean, it's about the hottest mess with a team that made the playoffs the previous year that any GM could step in at this moment.
But, you know, but like I said, we've got some guys. We've got guys in key positions. I think you got Derrick Henry, Traylon Burks.
I mean, realistically, a big core of your defense will be returning. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just making decisions about Cunningham, about Dupree, about trying to get an extension done for Jeffrey Simmons.
Pay the man.
And
That's all I can say.
that's what you do.
And
That's
I think
exactly
you've
what
got to do something with Tierre Tart too. Old Pop Tart. He showed out this year.
And he just signed with Drew Rosenhaus, so
Yeah.
he's coming for that money.
You gotta pay the man. So I mean, the Titans have a lot of decisions to make. I do not envy. I honestly do not envy whoever gets this GM job. You know, if I'm a GM or I'm a candidate for GM, and I look at this roster and I say, "Wait, these are all the decisions I have to make." Me personally, I would take this job in a heartbeat because I like a challenge. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy people saying, "You can't do this. You can't do that." But in the NFL, it's a little different. You got to select the right job with the right ownership, with the right players, with the right coaching staff. And, he's going to be hiring a lot of coaches. In addition to making draft picks, looking the free agent market, he's going to have a plan day one to come in. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of those guys out there.
No, this is definitely going to be challenging, just to say the least.
Yeah.
So a very, very locked in game plan, especially the offensive line being the key game plan going forward, trying to find a way to get a little more cap space to try and get a little more involved in free agency will definitely be another big factor.
I believe, we looked at this last night, and I can't remember what the final number is, but you get, Lawan, you can say he's gone. You might as well say he's gone. Robert Woods, you might as well say he's gone. Bud Dupree, you can pretty much say he's gone. That's almost $38 million. That's doggone near $38 million. And then you start looking at Ryan Tannehill. I think you can save $18 million from him if you cut him after, was it June 1st? If you cut him after June 1st, you can save $18 million from him. So, I mean, the Titans are going to have some cap space. They're going to have a ton of cap space. And who else can they? There's someone else. There was someone else who I didn't realize. Was it? Let me look. Zach Cunningham, I believe.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think it's Zach Cunningham, and it ends up being just this astronomical number of how much they could save by getting rid of those guys. It's an astronomical number. So I don't think cap space is going to be an issue. The question is, do you want to get rid of Ryan when you know Malik isn't ready? And if you get rid of Ryan, that means you're going to probably turning the keys over for a year or so to Josh Dobbs, because I think they end up keeping him.
And I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to keep Dobbs. I think he played well enough to work his way to a backup role.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really like you said. I mean, do the Titans feel that they need one more year of Ryan Tannehill? And can they build an offensive line around him that's going to be sustainable?
I wonder how many teams in the NFL are saying that exact same thing. Can we build an offensive line around a quarterback?
I'd say that's got to be at least not half, but at least maybe a quarter to half of those teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I do not envy the person who makes those who would have to make those decisions, but my Lord, I'd love to be him. And I can tell you right now, Dennis Daly, I would tell them, if you're going to hire me, the first thing I want you to do is fire Dennis Daly, cut his ass.
Dennis Daly must be Dennis Daly must be demoted to the XFL.
Can we send him back to college? Can we get him some eligibility in college?
I don't know if he does have some eligibility. I'm willing to send him back there because South Carolina just clearly did him no favors.
Oh wow! So I mean, and another thing is, what do you do with Ben Jones?
I mean, I'd say I'd leave that up to Ben Jones. If he wants to play out his contract, I'd let him. If he feels good enough to play, I'm not going to stop the guy.
Yeah.
But I do think you could draft a center, in the later rounds to potentially just get somebody kind of trained up. One guy I'd actually like would be Alex Forsythe from Oregon. Now he's had some injury problems, but I do think he's in a perfect position to just sit, learn, and Ben Jones is the perfect guy to learn from.
All right, Ben Jones is. When I say what do you do about Ben Jones, I didn't mean like do you cut him or anything like that. What I meant was do you draft his replacement now, or do you think it's too late and Ben Jones is going to retire? I don't know.
I think he'll play this. I think he'll play this upcoming year. I think he's still got one more good year in him.
So if that's the case, I just don't. Oh, wow. I just don't know. I just don't know where I go. If I'm looking at a center, I don't know.
You got some guys that are worth looking in the draft, and you have a couple of guys coming out of free agency. If you wanted to just try and just kind of kick the tires on him, if Ben Jones is definitely thinking about leaving. So, I mean, if Jones leaves, then you have to go through free agency to fill that void. It's too much of an important position for someone at a rookie level to be playing.
I keep thinking of he's playing right now. Georgia, their center. It's Cedric something. Does anybody in the chat know? It's Cedric somebody. I can't think of his name. That's a guy who you could probably pick up in the 4th round. And he's really good. I mean, for a center, he's really. What is his name? Okay,
that's a good question. I'm like,
okay, coming up. My internet's a little slow.
Oh, Cedric Van Pran.
Yeah, Van Pran. That's a guy who I think you can pick up in the 3rd or 4th round. Who I think would be, give him some time. It says here he's 6'4", 310. You put 10 pounds on him. And I think you got yourself a center. For the life of me, I couldn't think of his name. I knew it was Cedric.
I knew who you were talking about. It's just, what was that guy's last name? It was something like crazy.
Yeah, it's like, really? You're a Van? You're a Van? That's German, isn't it? But there's other guys who I think that could fill that void, but I don't know if he comes back. I honestly don't. Because didn't he think about retiring last year?
I don't know if he said it out loud, but I think it was just kind of whispered around. I mean, just from him personally, I don't remember it being a discussion. I know it was said out loud, especially you had the kid from Iowa that was potentially going to be one of the draft picks that Tennessee might take a shot at.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a guy who I look at. Trying to think of the kid from uh, you said Alex, didn't you? From Oregon.
Yeah, Alex Forsyth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another guy I look at, and maybe he, I think you can pick him up in maybe the 5th or 6th round. I don't think he's going to go very high, but he
He's had
shows
injury
flashes.
concerns,
Yeah,
so that's why I'd be in the 5th. But that's still like a high gamble, high reward kind of pick. So,
but
if
I don't think the Titans can do that anymore. I think the high risk, high reward uh, ship has sailed. We've done that too many times over the last few years, and we've got to pick some solid guys.
and I think it's going to be that situation, but I do think if Tennessee can actually establish himself, especially with getting depth on positions, maybe one day they can go back to that kind of a project kind of guy.
Yeah.
You could have first round talent that falls to 5th or 6th because of injury concerns. I don't rule it out, but I agree with you. I think it's one of those situations. They got to start building depth, and then they can start doing that.
If you're gonna reach for a beer, don't reach in the draft. It's so
that's t-shirt worthy. That's t-shirt worthy.
The only time you reach for a draft if it's a draft beer. Oh, so I mean, the Titans, the NFL is this is going to be probably one of the most tumultuous. I can't say that word right now, but it's going to be one of the most turbulent years. I'll use a different word. One of the most turbulent years that's going to kind of go. I think it's kind of going to go like under everyone's vision, because there's a lot of things that are going to be taking place in the NFL that is, there's a lot of splashes going on with the head coaches, but there's a lot of, assistants and a lot of coordinators that are going to be moving around. And,
Agreed.
and I think that it's going to be, there's going to be news. We're going to be able to cover anything we want anytime, because there's going to be something going on in the NFL, because this is going to be a turbulent year.
And it is. I mean, you're going to see a lot of shakeups. You're going to see, I definitely see the trade market going nuts this offseason once we hit it.
You do?
I do.
I don't know. I'm right now, when it comes to news, I'm trying to just keep my head above. I'm not even trying to keep my head. I'm just trying to keep my nose above water. The rest of it can be, submerged. But I mean, it's just coming fast and furious. And I can tell you right now, this is not over with. The next, when's the Super Bowl end? Is it 4 weeks?
I think it's about 4 weeks from now.
Yeah,
So that's right.
Yeah. So in about 4 weeks, it's going to get even worse, because you got all these teams that are going to be in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, where a lot of their assistants are going to get offers or going to get interviews, and a lot of those assistant GMs and those player personnel directors, all those guys, they're going to get interviews for GM jobs and stuff. That's when you think it's bad now. That's when it's going to get really bad. There's going to be rumors floating around. I mean, I'd be careful walking outside, because you might get hit in the head with a rumor.
I mean, of course, that's the fun part of the year for us. We've got this stuff that comes in, and your sources are definitely going to keep their ears to the ground going forward, because it's going to be very, very interesting for the next few weeks, especially if you're a Titans fan. GM search underway, replacing an offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, secondary coach, and we still probably aren't done with the cycle right now.
Well, I can't remember who it was. Somebody else may be getting a DC job. Maybe leaving the Titans to get a DC job, from what I hear.
That's right, Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, Jim may be leaving to get a DC job. So I mean, they're wow. This is the Titans are going to be moving and shaking, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that if Jim Schwartz leaves, I think that may be the single most devastating move in the Titans organization this year, because I think he is responsible for making this defense as good as it is.
I mean, are we sure we don't want to give Shane Bowen to the Browns?
Oh, I will give him and then pay half his salary.
I mean, I'm all for that.
We will give him and we'll pay half his salary for 2 years if you'll take him and leave Jim Schwartz alone.
There you go. I mean, Cleveland, it's on the table, so we'll talk.
Is there anybody else on the coaching staff that you would get rid of?
I mean, realistically, the wide receivers coach, they were toting the line pretty close, in my opinion.
I guess my question on the wide receivers coach is is it Willie? Is that who that is? I've forgotten the wide receivers coach. I'm going to have to look it up here.
Go right ahead.
Rob. It's Rob.
There you go.
Yeah, Rob. In this particular case, I may hold on to him because, in my opinion, he can't do anything about what the OC calls. And he can't do anything. He has no say in who they draft and who they give him as receivers. He can only work with the talent that he's given. You can only blame the coach, so high up. You know what I'm saying? And he was not given a lot to work with. But
that's true.
But Treylon Burks, he has brought Treylon Burks around. I mean, he's coached him up.
I guess that's a saving point right there. I mean, I just hope consistency. I hope consistency is something that we continue to strive for with the receiving core, because let's just be honest, we've been snake bit with wide receivers. Anyone not named A.J. Brown, we've been snake bit with wide receivers.
And even with A.J. Brown, he was injured all the time.
Well, we'll just say from a standpoint of just, playing.
Yeah.
From playmaking ability, we're snake bit with a wide receiving position.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there? I mean, the problem with assessing a wide receiver is a large portion of running backs and wide receivers and linebackers in your DBs is what I call an uncoachable ability called want to. You got to want to do it. And some of the guys who we've had over the years, they were just happy with being in the NFL. And what is his name from Cincinnati? Dez Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
He's a prime example of, I made it to the NFL. I got some money. Bye. Checked out. Gone.
Was he even on the practice squad?
I think he made the practice squad at first, and they cut him. He was on the team last year, off and on. But Des Fitzpatrick, you how do you assess want to? You know, there are guys out there who just are like, you know, I will deal with a diva wide receiver who wants the ball and is willing to go up there and get it, and who's going to win those one-on-ones. I will deal with his diva because that's what they eventually usually turn into. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I will deal with the divaness more than I will deal with a guy who just, is here, there for a check.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather somebody just be here that wants to get better at that position and be a lead at that position.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I must have felt a slight congestion. Woods.
Yeah, I want my money back on him.
Oh.
I want that money back. I'm not even playing about that. That's just bad investments.
So, and I guess Titan Fox says, he wasn't, injured in Philly this year. That's our point about figuring out what's causing these injuries at the Titans. Everyone who leaves the Titans is all of a sudden the healthiest person on earth.
Yeah, I've got so many questions about that, but hopefully that's something we find an answer for this offseason, because I don't want to see any more of those damn Thursday night football graphics of our players being in some injured tent. Like that just rubbed me the wrong way.
And Titan Fox, hell no. That's all I can say. Antonio Brown, hell no. That's not diva. That's stupid. I can't deal with stupid. I will not deal with stupid.
That's the next level of stupid.
I mean, he fell from the stupid tree and got hit by every branch. I mean, branches on the other side of the tree came over and smacked him.
Hell, he still hadn't hit the ground.
I mean, good Lord have mercy.
And before we go, I got to ask everybody in the chat a question. I mean, is anybody watching this damn college football game? I mean, anybody at this point. I just glanced over and I forgot it was on. I'm like, okay, it's 52-7 now.
When it comes to Antonio, let me say something about Antonio Brown, what he needs. I can tell you what would straighten him out right now. Bring him down here to my mama. Let her get that shoe off. And I guarantee you she would straighten his ass out. I mean, whew, there's nothing to straighten a man out like a good old fashioned mama beating. Mama getting on your behind. So that's where
that's tough love too.
Oh yeah, that's tough love, and it's coming from a good place, so you probably deserved it. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you did hit a nerve. Oh, you hit a nerve. I mean, I'm sorry. People showing out for no reason. That
right.
Like I said, I can deal with diva. I can't deal with stupid. Not going to deal with stupid. They did the right thing when he was acting up on the sideline down in Tampa. They just said, "See you later. Go. You bye-bye." The locker room's through that door right there. That's exactly how you got to treat someone like that.
I mean, at some point, some people just can't be reached, and I think Brown's just got to the point where he just wants to do his own thing, and
he can be reached.
Nobody needs. I mean, if that's what's got to happen, that's what's got to happen. But I don't want his drama on my football team.
No,
nor does anybody or any of the other 31 teams. So, but guys, you were just fantastic today. Love all the comments in the chat. Made sure to send a love out to you guys because you're the reason why we keep doing these shows. So shout out to you, of course. Great show tonight. Great show. And of course, got to give a shout out to Bradley Newberry. I mean, we could talk about the Titans and Jaguars, but what the hell's there to talk about? I mean, honestly, James, the last 7 weeks have been basically just copy and paste. I don't have any notes. I have no notes. Bradley, also being a Jaguars fan, I will definitely give him his due. Congratulations. Congratulations on winning the division. I mean, good job. That's all I got.
No one survives week 18 in Duval. I cannot stand that. I cannot stand that Duval thing. I can't. It drives me nuts.
I mean, if it's whatever makes him happy. I'm not going to take somebody's happiness away from him. So just, enjoy your hat and shirt game.
Yeah. I mean, really, they went from the first 6 weeks, the worst team in the division, to all of a sudden winning the division, and the Titans go on a 7-game skid.
Yeah, and I believe that skid tied them as the third team in NFL history to go from, I think, 7-2 and to drop all their games. So They now join the 2007 Lions and the 2018 Panthers as the other third team to do that. So, goals.
Hey, Todd Downing, congratulations. You did a great you did a great thing. Only 3 teams have done that, and you got to give a shout out to Dennis Daly for allowing this to happen.
All right, we're getting everybody in here.
All
right, line up. We're getting everybody's dues in.
And now, the Titans are heading to the toilet bowl as opposed to the Super Bowl. I just want to say thank you.
And we're getting a little love anyway. God bless that defense. I've never felt so bad for a defense. I really haven't. I mean, how many games did we leave on the table just because the defense gave that offense opportunities?
What was it Major League? Joe Boo. Our offense was Joe Boo this year. In Major League, Serrano, he's doing all that stuff for Joe Boo. I mean, the defense brought him in. It brought them turnover after turnover, brought them 3 and out after 3 and out. And at some point in time, I think the defense had to say, blank you, Joe Boo. I do it myself. And that's essentially what they had to do in a couple of games this year.
Todd Downing drank Joe Boo's rum. That's what happened. Very bad to drink Joe Boo's rum.
It was, wow. Wow. Maybe they should have called. Maybe the Titans should have called you and said, "Hey, will you throw on some pads for a few games? We got this guy named Dennis Daly. He's not working out. Can you come out and block for us on the left side? Can you be our left tackle?"
I would have.
Couldn't have been any worse.
I would have done it,
but it couldn't have been any worse. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I've put men bigger than me down on the ground when I played in pads.
I mean, I think they could have gotten Stevie Wonder out there, and it couldn't have been any worse.
That needs to be like shirt ideas, like Dennis Daly replacements, and just if anybody's got some, throw them on the list. I mean, we'll read them before we get out of here. I got a few ideas, but I mean, I know everybody doesn't want to be up all night, so I'll be realistic.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Maybe they could They could have replaced him with Dennis the Menace, and nobody would have known the difference. Yeah, that's for us older people who know who Dennis the Menace was.
They could have got one of those cardboard cutouts that they put in the stands during the COVID games and put it out there, and probably could have got better results.
Oh Lord. Oh man, and I hate the pile on a guy like Dennis Daly. I'm sure he's a nice guy. But at some point, as Dennis Daly, you got to go, like, hey, look, coach. Look, coach, are you sure you want me to go out there? Are you positive you want me to go out there? We got what's his name? Clark? Was it Lareven? Laron? Or I can't remember how.
I think it was LaRaven.
Raven or whatever.
I think it was LaRaven.
Y'all want to give him a shot?
I mean, it couldn't have been worse. Couldn't have been worse. No.
I mean, so that my take on the Titans are there are some key positions that we need to get filled, and there are some depth positions that we need to get filled.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think that whoever comes in as the GM, I personally don't envy them, but I would sure love to do it. I'd call up the Upload Network up and say, hey guys, come on, let's go. Let's make some decisions real quick.
I mean,
we know
our
stuff. We know our stuff. I would go to you and say, okay, hey, Power Hour, I need to know. I need you to assess offensive linemen. I want the best offensive linemen. I want your board up. We're gonna rate all these offensive linemen. I want you to tell me everything about them. I want to know what time they go to use the bathroom in the morning, what time they go to bed at night. And I
mean, the funny thing is, I already sent you guys a revamped offensive line.
I haven't seen that. Are you sure I got it? I don't think I got it.
It's on our group chat. And I know nobody knows what I'm talking about on the show, but I actually revamped this offensive line and I sent it on our group chat. So definitely check that out because I did my homework on that because I get bored like that.
I don't think I got it.
But I definitely think one motion of business you should definitely do is just definitely get the Upload Network to be the official, YouTube streaming service of the Tennessee Titans. So, hint, hint, wink, wink.
I don't know if I could do that because you guys, the thing about it is if I were a GM and I'd have you guys helping with that, you guys would be too busy doing that because retooling this offense is going to be a lot of work. I don't know if you'd be able to put out any videos because you'd be working so hard.
I'm working at FedEx and still putting out stuff. You think that's going to stop me? You are wrong. You are wrong, my friend. I will find that time because I'm just good like that. As long as I get about 5 hours of sleep, I'll be good.
Oh, you sleep 5 hours?
Sometimes.
I think it depends. It depends. Like if I haven't slept a long time, if I haven't slept enough in a long time, I will sleep. But for some reason at night, I cannot fall asleep. So you'll see me up till 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll fall asleep around 4 and I'll get up around 6. I don't know why.
Maybe that happens. I mean, I think when you get older, you just really don't have that. You're kind of just getting as much done as you can. So probably that whole thing.
I mean, what is your outlook? If you had to judge the Titans right now, what is your outlook on our biggest position of need? Not who you would draft or what your biggest area that you really need to focus in on.
I mean, really, right now, with everything that I have at my disposal, it's just in general the offensive line. I mean, offensive tackle is definitely going to be the first position of being fixed
Mm-hmm.
because we already know more than likely Taylor Lewan's going to be more than likely retiring after this because I just don't see him being retained, especially with the injuries that he's taken. I mean, once you have a second ACL, it gets to be at a point where you have to start making these decisions going forward for the betterment of the team.
Yeah. And who was it? Bradley. DBs aren't good enough. Well, yeah, that's true, but I think you can live with what we've got DB wise if they're healthy.
And I mean, Roger McCreary's going to get better.
Yeah.
He cut his teeth this year.
Yeah.
And there's some things he did well. There's things he's going to have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody that was just raw as he was and got thrown in the mix, you couldn't have asked him to do any better than he could have. So it's going to be just growing pains for him. I think it's just get an off season under his belt, work on the basic stuff, and just go from there. And I mean, with Christian Fulton, it's just going to be really just keeping him healthy.
Yeah. And, I think, and we get Harold Landry back. He is a difference maker on that defense. He's a difference maker. He can fall back into coverage. He can cover a little bit, so we get Harold Landry back, and I think the defense gets a little bit better and I think that he actually makes our DBs look better than they are because he's so good at shutting down passing lanes when he's not rushing. He's good at getting back and shutting down those passing lanes, and he's good at when they bring him, he's brought. He's brung. As we say in the South, when I'm bringing it, it's brung. And, so we get Harold Landry back. Oh, God, Jackrabbit. Really? Come on. Why you guys got to torture us? Why are you torturing me? What? I bring you good news. I bring you breaking news. I use contacts, and y'all torturing me. For real. Y'all just
it's all out of love.
I mean, it's
it's out of love. I understand.
Oh man!
If y'all weren't messing, then you wouldn't have cared. So it's all good.
My heart.
I mean, they probably could have come up with a few worse players than that. So I'm not going to give y'all ideas, but
come on, man.
We'll just call it a laugh and just leave it at that.
Man, that hurt my heart right there. That one hurt my heart.
Well, James, I appreciate you for taking the time and being on the show. We've definitely got a lot to talk about tonight, and there was just a lot to cover. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. And, all I did tonight was keep it real. Try to throw a little humor in there because if you can't laugh, then if I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying.
And that's the perfect tag for the Titans 2022 season. If I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying. So, what was it originally? We run this.
Yeah. We
there's your
run
tag
this
right
into
there.
the ground. Is what the other side of the shirt should have been into the ground.
Oh man, this season couldn't have ended sooner because it's like I was telling Rossi, I think a week ago. I could have just copy and pasted the show for 7 weeks and no one would have noticed the difference.
Daily missed blocks. There you go.
Offense blows game.
Offense blows the games. Bad calls. Bad offensive calls. Bad referee calls.
Yeah,
that's something we haven't talked about. To be honest with you, that the fumble. I gotta get it right. The fumble I think if it had been called incomplete, it wouldn't have been reversed either.
Probably not.
I think that it was so close either way, they were just going to stay with whatever we'll call it on the field. They were going to say it's confirmed and be done with it. So
That's how it seemed like. These refs were just fed up with us, and they were just throwing every bad call they could.
but I do think also that that I think that the quality of the referees in the NFL over the last few years has gone down.
It is.
It's gone down because say what you want to about Ed Hockley, the dude could call a game.
Yeah.
He missed a call every now and then, but the dude could call a game, and his crew he was assured of was going to call a game well. And if it wasn't, he would fix it.
Yeah.
And I mean, whatever happened to guys like that? Whatever happened to refs like that?
They're just retiring. I know his son is actually a referee. So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I just think we're getting to the point where we might have to start having booth reviews on some of these calls because there's just so much inconsistency. I mean, there's always going to be a human error in it.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the element. But realistically, when you're missing basic principle calls, I mean, it just starts defeating the purpose.
And I think also that the NFL needs to really look at full-time refs. Full-time paid NFL refs.
That should have been something that they worked out the first ref in NFL strike.
Yeah.
I mean, that should have been right then and there.
Yeah, I think that should be first and foremost one of the things that they look at. But I don't know who needs to look at that. I don't know if would that be the competition committee?
I think that would be a competition committee issue. So more than likely that would be something they would probably discuss in the meetings this upcoming spring. So I mean, it might be on the table. I'm sure that's going to be something they review.
It's not like the NFL doesn't make enough money.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't high school. This isn't college. This isn't, middle school or Pee Wee League or something. This is the premier American football world championship. This is premier. We should have the best. We have the best of the best. Supposedly we have the best of the best coaches. Supposedly the NFL has the best of the best players, right?
Exactly.
And those are all professionals, right?
Exactly. So you would want them to be at that same level that
if not better.
Yeah.
So let's have professional referees. It's what I can't remember how many billions of dollars are in the NFL right now. You got teams that are worth billions.
And that's not including the TV deals that are going to go into place for next year.
You got billions and billions and billions of dollars. And you're telling me you can't pay your refs? $750K?
I don't see that being a problem. I mean, for most of them, that's just focusing on our craft and just making a product better.
Yeah. $750? Hell, for $750, I'll do it blindfolded and make the right calls.
I'll just sit and just randomly make calls, period.
I mean, for $750,000 a year, would you quit your job to go be a ref?
That ain't going to bother me. I mean, I don't... That much money just to run up and down a field and make calls and have people hate me? Go for it.
Study the rule book, to go in and diagnose things that plays and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Look, let's stop this part-time ref crap, and let's get some. It's time.
James once again keeping it real. Like NFL, You're getting it right here, man. Let's just get to the real. Let's get to the real deal and cut to it. Just no more part time. We're done with that.
Yeah. That's I mean, I can't remember who I can't remember when. You remember the last ref strike they had?
And yeah, I think it was 2012.
Yeah, they had it was a Monday night game, and they had refs from the OVC.
Oh God, you're talking about the Seattle Packer game.
Yeah, we got Holden on number
Oh.
57 on the offense.
You know, it
remember
was
that?
hilarious. It took 5 weeks for them to come to a deal. And it wasn't even, it was the Monday night game that pushed it.
Yeah.
But on that Sunday, the Ravens and the Patriots played.
Oh, yeah.
And there was that field goal that you had one call that was good, and the other one said that it was no good. So everybody's trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Bill Belichick runs over and grabs one of the refs. I've never seen him do that in my life. And I was like, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Damned if that Monday night game didn't come along and then just do what already been done.
We got pass interference on defense. Number 130.
I remember the Golden Tate, the Golden Tate catch.
Yeah.
Both refs just kind of look at each other. One just goes up, one goes.
I'm pretty sure one of them, they were both kind of going like this, and
damn, I don't know what to do.
But like I said, look, pay them a decent salary so they don't have to do something else.
Exactly.
Enforce extremely high standards, and people will meet those standards. But treat them as professionals.
And they earned that. I mean, they work on a professional level. They deserve to be treated just as such.
Everything else on that football field is professional.
Exactly.
They should be too. So, hey, refs, remember, it was Titans fans that are advocating for you to become professionals and be treated as professionals. Remember us next year.
Yeah, just you got one, so that's probably all you're getting from us, though. You keep that BS up next year. We're going to start cutting down the mark. It's going to go 750 to 5, and then we'll go 5 to 4. So just remember, we're watching.
Well, thanks for having me on. Let me keep it real with you.
Appreciate it as much, James. And of course, you can check James out. James is on Twitter. Make sure to check him out and follow him. And James also has his own YouTube page. Going to let you give fans a shout out to let them know where to find you and all your great content at.
Lots of times you'll find me on Titans for Life on YouTube. I'm not a big tweeter or twitterer. I don't know. Usually I will just ask if Rossi will do it for me, and he'll put it on his Twitter, because I'm just like, dude, no. Look, I don't even use Facebook anymore. I'm rarely on Facebook, but I'm Big Sportsman 3 on Twitter. But don't look for a lot of things on there from me, because I'm not sure exactly how that works. I see tweets, retweet. How do you retweet? It's a tweet. Tweet. I don't see birds retweeting. But anyway, look, I'm an old fogey. Okay. I'm 48 years old, so I'm starting to get that get off my lawn syndrome. So yeah. So if you check on there, I'm on there, but you'll find me on several shows on the Upload Network. I hope to be making the rounds on the Upload Network here, talking about some more stuff, and I'm hoping to bring some more content for all the channels with some scoops. Remember, here on the Titan Upload Network bring you the breaking news first, and it's accurate. It may be early because we break the news before it happens, but it's going to be accurate. And we vet, I vet my sources, and so just know that it's accurate. And if someone says, "Oh, no," just remember, if I'm guessing all this stuff, I need to go guess the lottery ticket numbers because I'm going to win $1 billion.
Believe me, I'm trying to get a few numbers off of you if that's the case. So,
but I mean, it's my sources are good.
They're very good.
They're not, to me, they're really not sources, even though, at what we do, we have to call them sources. To me, they're friends. They're people who I know, and there are times I get stories, and I'm just going to tell you this, Michael, and I'm going to tell everybody who watches your show. Times I get stories that I don't run with because I know it could get the person who told me in trouble, and I won't do that. I'm not going to cost a person their job because, their livelihood, because just to break a story. It's not going to happen.
That's respectable. I mean,
I've had many stories that I could have done that with, and but when there's only 2 or 3 people in the room, and it happens, guess what? One of those 2 or 3 people told.
Yeah.
And
that's
I'm not
protecting your source.
And not only am I protecting my source, I'm protecting my friends. I'm protecting my people who I like to hang out with. People who I've known for a while, people who I've just met. I will never put a source in jeopardy. Just not going to happen. It's not worth it. A story is not worth it to me. No.
And I mean, you've definitely picked and chose the ones that you've ran with and the ones that you've hit on, which are basically all of them. The man knows his stuff. So believe me, James puts out something, I promise you, it's legit. His sources are legit. We're not going to put something out that you're going to doubt. So thank you so much, James, for joining us tonight. Great show. Great having everybody on. We are the 2-hour power. So that's how it's going tonight. So we had a lot to talk about. So,
oh yeah, we did.
Believe me, we're going to get it off our chest. I'm sorry if you're watching Georgia TCU. This game sucks. Hey, college football playoff, expand the damn thing. That's all I'm getting at. But everybody else, have a great night. We'll be back next Monday. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Take care and tighten up.
Tighten up. Keep it real.
Thank you for watching this live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.